In continuing our review for Chapter 6 on quadrilaterals, we have a problem here that is based on knowing that it's parallelogram. It tells us that angle 2 right here is equal to 5x minus 28, and that angle 4 that's right here is going to be equal to 3x minus 10. And they would like for us, when we're done, to find angle 3. Now, just to help us a little bit, if we know it's a parallelogram, we do know that opposite angles are equal. Now, if I use these two to find x, that should at least help us to figure out the angles for 2 and 4, and then we'll see what we can do about 3. So I'm going to take my 2 that I know are equal, and I'm going to set them equal to each other. Now, I'm actually going to mark that with a little pink down the side so I know that has to do with the ones that I have up here. So I'm going to subtract 3x. So then it's 2x minus 28 equals negative 10. Then I'm going to add 28. Then I'm going to divide by 2. So x equals 9. Now back in here, if we know that x equals 9, it doesn't matter which angle I find, this one might be a little bit easier because it has slightly smaller numbers. So if I went in here to solve, 3 times 9 is 27. Minus 10 would be 17. Well, it means that this angle right here is 17 degrees, and so is this one. So if I want to find the angles I've got marked in yellow, we know that these two have to add together to give you 180. So if I take 180, subtract the 17 that I know, I'll end up with 183. That means that the measure of angle 3 is going to have to be 183 degrees, which would be that answer D. Now be careful. If you just solve for x and you make it 9, obviously that's a choice here. This angle right here is 17. That was a choice here. So there really have some ones on here that if you're not paying attention, it can be easy to kind of screw up. Okay, let's take a look at our next one. This one wants us to find AM. Now they tell us that AO right here is 4. They also tell us that PN, which is this entire side here, is equal to 9 for the whole thing. Now if it's a parallelogram, remember, that means that AO and AM are going to have to be equal. So if AO is equal to 4, that means that AM is also got to be equal to 4 as well. So my answer is going to be B. In the next one, I'd like us to find the values for x and y so that this is a parallelogram. So if it's a parallelogram, that means that these two pieces right here are going to have to be equal to each other. And these two pieces are going to have to be equal to each other. So let's start with the yellow first. That means that 4y minus 7 is going to have to equal to y plus 14. Add my 1 here. So subtract 1y from both sides. So I get 3y minus 7 equals 14. Got to add 7 to both sides. So I get 3y equals 21. Divide both sides by 3. And I get y equals 7. Now if I have y is equal to 7, if I look down here, There's only this one doesn't work, this one doesn't work, this one doesn't work. So I'm already thinking that C is going to be my answer. I just need to find X to find out for sure. So on the X pieces, those are the ones I have marked in pink in my picture. That's going to be 4x minus 2 is going to have to equal x plus 28. Add my 1 here. So I'm going to subtract 1x. So 3x minus 2. Add 2. So 3x equals 30. If I divide by 3, get x equals 10, which verifies what's going on up here. So that means that indeed C is our answer. Okay, let's try the next one. They tell us that angle B and D are equal, which would make sense if they say that they'd like this to be a parallelogram. So on this one, these are both 41 degrees. And they'd like us to find the measure of angle C. So to find the measure of angle C right here, these are both its supplements. So in either direction, whether you look this way or this way, C plus 41 is going to have to equal 180. So if I take 81 and I subtract 41 from it, I get 139, which means that the measure of angle C is 139. So our answer right here is going to be B. Okay, now this one talks about a picture where it talks about a rectangle, and there really isn't even one drawn. So I'm actually going to draw this just to kind of help you out a little bit. D, E, F, and G. And then it also talks about in here the diagonals. So if I was looking at this, I know that these two diagonals are going to have to be equal to each other. And in this problem, they tell you that DF is 5x minus 5, and EG, the other diagonal, is x plus 11. They'd like us to find x and the length of each diagonal. So I'm going to find x, and then I'm going to find DF. And I'm also going to find EG when I'm done. So to start out, if I know these two are equal, I can take these two pieces and set them equal to each other to find x. So 5x minus 5 and x plus 11, and a 1 here. So I'm going to subtract 1x from both sides. Then I'm going to add 5. And then divide by 4. So I get x equals 4. So based on the fact that x equals 4, I know that D can't be my answer because of this. Now they want me to find DF. So I know DF is 5x minus 5. And I know this is equal to 4. So 5 times 4 is 20, minus 5 would be 15. So that means DF is equal to 15. So this one doesn't work, and this one doesn't work. Now I know that if DF is 15, I know that EG has to be the same because the diagonals have to be congruent. That's one of those theorems about rectangles. So if that's true, then that means that EG is also going to have to equal 15. That means that up here this can't be true. So C has to be my answer. Okay, let's go to the next one. On this one, it wants us to find the values of A and B. So first of all, because of the rules about a trapezoid, we've kind of got some rules to use. First of all, this one and this one are going to have to be supplementary. So that means that if I want to be able to find A, if I do 180 minus 36, that's going to give me 144. So that means A is going to have to be 144. There's my little answer key here. So that means that this one and this one cannot be true. Now, if I look at this other pairing, I know that this 113 and B are also going to have to be supplements of each other, which means that if I want to find B, do 180 minus 113. So if I subtract those two, I end up with 67. So B is 67, which means that this isn't true, which means our answer would have to be A. Okay, next one. They want us to find angles 1 and angle 3. Now, they've marked 2 in here even though they're not necessarily asking for it. Remember, angle 2 on this one is going to have to be 90 because we know that the diagonals meet at a perpendicular. So that means this is 90 here. So the other thing to remember is angle 1 is going to have to be 39 degrees. Because remember, we said that these two are matching triangles. So if this is 39 degrees, this one is. So based on just the fact that you know that that 1 is 39, it can't be this one and it can't be this one. Now to find angle 3, I have to do 180. And if I look at just this triangle right here, those three angles are going to have to equal 180. So if I subtract this 90 and the 39, whatever's left over will be 3. So if I subtract 90 and 39, that means I'm going to be left with 51. So that means that the measure of angle 3 is going to have to be 51. Which means this doesn't work, so our answer is C. Okay, this is our last problem. So on this one, I know that these two sides are equal and these two are equal. Now angle R is 130 and S is 80. And they want us to find angle T. So first of all, if this one's 80, I know this one has to be 80 as well. And I know that all together, because this is four-sided, it has to equal 360. So if I subtract 130 and 80 and 80, whatever's left over here is going to be our measure of angle T, which means that it would be 70. Answer would be B.